Hi, good evening. My name is Jay Rothman, and welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. Hi again, my name is Jay Rothman. I'm the host of the show. I'd like to introduce my co-host. We have Josh Richer coming in from Santa Monica, California. This evening, we have Evis Love Heath, the man of the land from down under. He calls Australia home. And of course, we have Mr. Jeff Pisano coming in from Nashville, Tennessee. Tonight, Charles Maddox is off on assignment somewhere down in Mexico, looking at some sites for his upcoming production of Reverse TV. So we miss you, Charles Maddox. Look forward to seeing you on an episode in the near future. But in any event, welcome to the show, guys. Good to see you tonight.
Oh, great
Man,
to be
just
here.
like yesterday again, Jay. Wow, brothers.
Back together again. I love it.
Here
Can't
we
get enough
are.
of my brothers on the other side of the pond.
Well, I'm doing well. I just want to take a moment here just to welcome our viewers and listeners that join us this evening. If you should hear something that you like or love, with love, gently tap your love button on your own monitor. And if you have any questions or comments that come forward for you, please drop it into the comments, and we'll do our best to share it up on the screen when it's appropriate, as well as ask any questions. If any come forward, we will do our best to answer as many as possible. And Charles Maddox says, "Rocket fellas." I presume I'm presuming he's at the airport. But in any event, welcome to the show, guys. Tonight's topic is a hot one because I could tell you we all, I know for sure, we all have in our lives managed our habits, patterns, and rituals. And sometimes we are at peace with them. Sometimes they're good habits, and sometimes they're not so good. Of course, we can go right to, well, who's the judge of that? We don't need anyone to be a judge of that. Outside of ourselves, we know, we are aware of how we're showing up, if it's good or bad for us, or we at least may have an idea of that. But it's a hot topic because as we are rounding out 2020 and heading into 2021, this is a great time to really do some assessment, look at where we're at for ourselves, for our health, our wellness, our relationships in our life, and are we at peace with our habits, patterns, and rituals? And so what I'd like to do is invite Josh, since you're sitting up next to me in the hot seat, invite you to kind of kick the show off tonight from your perspective and warm us up a bit here.
All right.
Thanks, brother.
Well, I have to be honest. I sort of have a love-hate relationship with the word habit. It's
Ooh, another word to debunk, you reckon,
I
brother?
know, right? And starting out deep, and I've brought it up on the show, being bipolar, it's tough because I get caught in these creative moments where I'm diving into a project and I forget to eat and I forget to. So habits for me have been sort of a challenge in my healthy habits. And it has been something that I've had to work on extensively and practice at. It's had to become an intentional practice. And I'm not saying that I'm great at it by any means. I am still alive and learning in this planet and doing my thing to keep myself in a powerful place. But it's something I'm still working on. So I'm gonna open it up and just come out and be vulnerable to say that it's been tough for me.
Yeah.
Love that, brother. Yeah, man. 100% behind you there, man.
Yeah, it's
Like you said, Josh, it is one of these things. I mean, none of us are perfect, man. None of us are perfect. It's definitely one of those things. Like we've come off choices last week, and we've really navigated, like we said at Real Men Real Talk Live, when we brought up that in the 12 weeks leading up to 2021, we're going to provide you guys, our beautiful family out there, brothers and sisters, with tools to be able to celebrate coming into the new year. And for me, like Josh, man, I'm continuously working on my habits. I did a little bit of a video this morning, and I said one of the habits that I've consistently and still to this very day have to work on is pull myself away from going to the gym for a workout. Now, I said this on the video, and I said, well, you may think to me, well, come on, Ev, I don't even go to the gym. Yet you're making your way there, and you can do it all whenever you like and at all times. But to me, there was never a balance. See, what I was going to the gym for was to release anger. It was to release stress. So, it was these particular things that we've got to look at what's triggering some of these things for these habits. So I'll look on the other side of that habit. Okay, yeah, it's part of that healthy lifestyle, but is it when I'm burning myself out in a gym environment?
Yeah.
Is it because I'm not getting to the root cause of what was potentially causing me the stress, the anger, and the pain from day one? So for me, like I said, I still try and balance this out. And that's why you're seeing me, and I'm sure it's going to come up here tonight on Real Men Real Talk Live about getting out in nature and why it's so important for each and all of us, as we say, week after week, to really ground us in these particular times and certainly be able to implement things like these good habits within our lives.
Yeah. Ev, I'm curious, at what point in your life did you have the awareness that that the gym for you was only serving the purpose of releasing anger and stress, but it wasn't enough? And obviously something or somebody led you out of the gym. I'm curious, at what point did you have that awareness, and how did you find your sweet spot in nature? Because I tell you what, I don't know when is the last time, how often you get to the gym, but you've created your own gym in the jungle. And my God, I've actually tried to do a few things like, harness a tree the way you do. And I didn't have the kind of success you have, but you also got 20 years on me and my junior, I believe.
Yeah, we're only young pups, brother. We're only young pups. But yeah, man, it's a beautiful question, Jay, and I'll try and answer it as close as possible to the question as you asked. And for me, it's this whole thing about coming back within. Externally, I still wasn't seeing things on the outside change within my reality, even from going to the gym and, consistently, projecting and releasing that anger, pain, and stress out into my life. And it wasn't changing for particular things in my life, relationships. So there comes that word again. So I was looking for that emotional, release that I was feeling the stress in particular relationship at the time, to go to the gym and release some of that anger, as opposed to projecting not only one on the outside world. Now, because that wasn't showing up in the reality within that relationship, that me going to the gym for that quick fix and releasing some of that anger was not so much a problem from, that projection on the outside, but more so of what was going on within inside of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So until, like I said, I stepped back out into nature and started grounding myself with more these holistic methods and modalities that we always talk about on Real Men Real Talk Live, I was continuously practicing and acting out these unconscious behaviors and patterns that we're going to talk about here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Just thinking about the gym. I mean, I did bodybuilding for 20 years, and I remember I was addicted to it.
Yeah, man.
6 days a week, addicted to it. literally addicted to it. But for me, it wasn't about releasing anything. It was about building the armor around me, building an armor around my heart space. Wanting, and then I think I've spoken about this on the show. It was about projecting something where I'll be loved outside of myself. I'll have this great, perfect physique, and you're gonna love me. Building all of the armor around it, and then it just became an addiction. And if I didn't go to the gym, my nervous system would freak out.
Wow.
If I missed a night at the gym, my nervous system would freak out. And eventually I realized it wasn't healthy, but I got injured. I got, injured big time doing it with pinched nerves and all of that good stuff. And my body was like screaming back at me to make different choices. And then I did, when I realized that, when I went to a chiropractor, but I realized that a lot of the stuff that I was doing was unhealthy. It really was an unhealthy thing that I was doing, because all I was doing was lifting weights. And then I pivoted, did a complete 180, and started doing yoga. So what I did is I changed this addictive behavior, because that's what it was, from an addictive behavior into something that was more healthy, and it was a practice that moved a lot of energy. And I came to love yoga, and I haven't been in the gym since my early 50s. And so what I did is I realized this addiction, because it was, and then made a different choice into something that was much more healthier, which was yoga and cardio. And it changed my life, it changed my physique, but it also began to bring me to a place of more centered inside of myself.
Of balance, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were healthier habits. You weren't running from something, you were going towards something.
Yeah. It was a crazy 20 years of my life of bodybuilding like a lunatic, but
Isn't it funny how anything can be unhealthy? I mean, even you guys talking about working out, it's just when it's fueled by a negative or it can become a negative event.
Yep.
And something that's unhealthy for us.
For me, it started out as I'm an athlete, so as an athlete, you want some sort of challenge to keep going. And I started when I was 27. So that's what it became for me. But then it just morphed into an addiction where my nervous system, if I didn't get to the gym that night, it just threw off everything.
I just posted this up here, guys. Jillian Bowie coming in from the UK sometime at about 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. Thank you so much for coming in from overseas in the middle of your night. We appreciate you, as well as every guest that's coming in from around the globe. But Jillian says, this is an interesting comment, and I'm going to invite you to jump on this one. From your perspective, she says, we can apply apparently healthy habits as well as coping mechanisms. How about getting to the root of the issue? Ev, what do you make of what she's saying here is that we also apply healthy habits are a form. Do you agree from the perspective of are healthy habits a coping mechanism?
Yeah, 100%, brother.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Look, one of those things, and with me, with these, when I think Gillian, what she's saying there as well, how it's not about eliminating these bad habits, but more so replacing them. So when I look at these, gains or losses over taking something away from someone, and I help so many people on this health, fitness, and wellness journey now. And if you say, for example, you're going to have to, kick back on some of that alcohol that you've been drinking. Oh, no, you better not come in the way of that habit. You won't see them for the next few weeks. But if I replaced it with a healthier habit, like asking them about the cues, is it the certain people, environment that they're hanging out, that they're having those extra few drinks? Is it a certain time of the day that you're having those particular drinks? Or is it just on those certain occasions? So when you actually apply some of these healthier cues or habits to replace them, as opposed to eliminate or take away from someone, and this is where we've got to get into the science. When you understand what a habit is, and I've done a lot of Joe Dispenza workshops, man, and he says it brilliantly when you go into understanding what these habits are, coming from a thought pattern. Those thought patterns create memories, and from that memory, we're creating these behaviors. The emotions, they repeat some of these thought, repeat these emotions, and then you get vice versa, and then all of a sudden, you're playing out the old past program and old habits.
Yep.
So the thing is, it's really being aware, coming back to this awareness. And if you, for instance, you're out at a party and this alcohol problem come up, I'm just being social. Well, why don't you drive to the party next time? I think that could become a healthier habit, because hopefully you're not going to drive home, are you? So it's more so replacing some of these bad habits, we might call them, with some healthier habits that actually serve you.
Let me ask, I'm going to throw this out here, because as humans, I'm going to speak for myself. There are many times that we are aware of a habit that's not serving us. Right?
Yeah.
And we know what we should do. And if we do it, we will feel better, maybe physically, emotionally, mentally, and possibly even spiritually. Yet we struggle with that as a society. Why do you think, even when we have maybe some awareness of gateways, antidotes to feel better about yourself and or to improve relationships, why do we continue to resist changing, shredding, discarding, dissolving the old habit and embracing new ones that will change our life? Where does that block come in, guys? What do you think's happening, Josh?
For me,
Comfort zones.
For me,
Josh?
it was that I had a lifetime of beating myself up, right? And my internal dialogue was really bad. And so for me, trying and potentially failing at something new was too painful to think about. Like, I wouldn't start a new habit, a new healthy habit, because I was too afraid of failing and therefore spending weeks or months beating myself up for that failure. So I wouldn't even go there. So I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, it was the fear at failing something else again and then beating myself up over that.
So you'd rather stay in the muck
Yep.
than take a chance. All right. So let me
And
ask you this.
and the thing that happens too is in the brain prefers knowns. So new habits are unknown. So we're battling our own neurology.
Yeah.
The brain is trying to keep us comfortable in asleep at the wheel because it can run on autopilot. It doesn't have to expend extra energy. So the brain is honestly fighting us on this. So we have to consciously make choices. But yeah, for me, the whole story was, if I try this and fail, it's just something else. That's proof that I'm a failure.
Yeah. It's that the comfort zone thing. It's about, you're in your comfort zone, you know it, you might not like it, you probably don't like it, but you know it, and it's known, as Josh just said. It's something that we know. It's like, what are your routines every day? Everybody has a routine every single day from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed at night. We get caught in these routines that are very familiar to us, that are very comfortable to us, and they may not be serving us. So it's a wonderful tool to look at is look at your routines or habits, your rituals, your patterns, and your behaviors that you continue to perpetrate, and ask yourself, what is this serving me? Is this serving me? Is this raising my resonance and vibration? Is this enhancing my life? Is it? And then look at the antithesis of that. Is it not enhancing my life? Is it not serving me? But I continue to do it. Why do I continue to do it? And as Josh just said, is because if in fact you pivot and make another choice to something that just may be more healthy, you're forcing your nervous system and yourself into an unknown.
Okay. That's fair. Ev, I'm going to ask you to jump in on this segment here. As a coach, I know you work with people that are unhappy with an aspect of their life. And usually part of that are choices, habits, patterns. I'm sure that not all your clients have you been able to guide them to the sweet spot in their own life. The ones that you have been able to see some significant change and breakthroughs to break free of the old, what do you think was the difference? Where was it something that you said or inspired, or do you have a sense of what made the difference for those that got there and those that have not yet?
Another beautiful question, brother. And, something that I think a lot of people could take, because, man, over the couple of decades that I have been helping people on this health, fitness, and wellness journey, and you will just see, like I said, like you're saying there, you will just see those few people that are able to create these healthier habits, rituals, or behavioral patterns that don't go around in these circles. They don't go around in these yo-yo diets. They don't go around, stop smoking and then they start back up because they're at a party and they're having a couple of drinks and they're in a social environment. These people, they act it out daily. They practice it. They know how to visualize. Their mindset, is so sharp that they've been able to, like I said, change and be able to become self-aware of cues if some of these old habits start circling or coming back in. So they're able to check themselves. So as opposed to really, stopping some of the things that may have been getting them in, whether it's putting on the extra few kilos, whether it was trying to, lift a certain weight and they just couldn't, was not so much about some of the behaviors that they could stop, but what they could learn in replacement, like I said, as opposed to being taken away. I hope that makes sense, man, because it's a very psychological thing when you're telling someone to stop something. We're all kids. We're all inner childs, remember, at the heart.
Yeah, it's like, you can't tell me to do that.
Exactly right, brother. Exactly right, man. I never tell anyone to stop eating what they're eating anymore. I've learned that very, very quickly. And I've learned that from experience as well. So, like I said, rather than telling to stop eating a particular food, it's more so learning and become self-aware about what is actually serving me for my new healthy lifestyle, for example. So, you're not going to stop smoking, but I'm going to learn how to manage stress in a healthy way. Instead of saying, I'm going to stop spending all this money, I'm going to, seek financial freedom to allow me to be more flexible with my money. So it's reframing the way that we look at some of these things, Jay.
And two, it's, if you don't know what your replacements are at first, look to the people that you admire.
There you go, brother.
We talked about it on Fake It Till You Make It episode, was that model others that you You know, if you love this person's energy and vibration and all of that, what are they doing? What are the habits that they're putting in their life? And if you don't know yours yet, try them on. Try on a few of their habits and see how they. And for
There you go, bro. There
for
you
me,
go.
the shift, I hate the H word. I'm gonna throw it out there. We talked about it in the pre-production meeting.
Are we adding that to the list
I hate, yeah.
of prohibitive of the prohibitive words on Real Men, Real Talk?
What was the C word? Yeah. So
Why,
I
why do you hate the word, Josh?
don't know. It just has a negative. I think a lot. I don't know. I think a lot of people have a problem with the word habit. It sounds like something that you have to work at, or it's hard to do, and to me, it sounds like a potential failure. So the reframe, like Ev was talking about, for me was I treated it as an experiment. So let me just keep doing this thing. Yes, the H word. I know it's banned from the show now, right?
Okay.
For me, I just kept experimenting. Well, I'm going to show up at the gym tomorrow, and I'm going to show up at the gym the next day, and I'm going to show up at the gym, and I'm going to see what happens. I had never been a big, workout person, gym person. And I've done that the last few years, and I saw my body change. I felt better, and I got to feel the results just by experimenting. So I wasn't doing the H word, trying to create a new H word. It was just an experiment.
I like the word routine. I think the word routine is a very neutral word. And Josh, I hear you with habit. What the vision that comes in me was my mother with the ruler slapping me on the hands. When I hear the word habit, and Evis just said this, and we're talking about it. And what Jillian said, going to the root of it. Going of the root is why we continue these behaviors, routines, rituals that we know. I bet you if we asked our audience right now, what are some routines, what are some behaviors and patterns that you're doing that you know that really don't serve you, and you know that they don't serve you, but we continue them and we continue them. I've done it. We've all done it, and until a couple of things are happening, you're gonna get to the point where the universe is gonna hit you across the back of the head with the mighty cosmic 2x4, and then you might get it then, or you could ask yourself, it just goes back to it. I'm comfortable in this. I may not like it, but I know it, so I continue the routine, but it's not getting me anywhere anymore. And then ask yourself, well, what are these routines that aren't getting yourself or enhancing your life or bring you to the place of this is the life that I say I want and I'm not getting there? It's about shifting those routines because your nervous system gets so used to those routines and you get entrenched in them and they're really, really not serving you. And the ego says, well, if you break the routine, that's going to piss me off.
Yeah, man.
Hey, Jeff, you just touched on something huge. You mentioned the word ego. So I'm going to take a minute here to jump in and break it down from my perspective about habits and rituals and routines. I, like all of us, had a relationship with old habits and routines. And I was also very aware that they weren't serving me, but I was very much paralyzed and stuck in them. And what I didn't know then, which I have a clearer understanding of today, was that I don't believe that when I was in it, I was showing up as my adult self. I believe that my life was being managed by the other two parts of me. Now, for those, some of you may not understand where I'm going to go with this. So feel free to drop any questions in the comments if you're unclear. But I don't believe it was my adult self, my higher self, making these healthy choices or unhealthy choices to me. It was my younger self who wanted to continue to show up the way he showed up when he was younger, because it worked for me back then. It worked for my younger self, that younger JJ, okay? And then what happens is that my ego, where we know ego comes from our thoughts, ego lives up in this spot of a part of our body, would always endorse what my younger self wants. He would be like, he'd justify the unhealthy choices I was making in my life, whether I was hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. He always gave me the quick hit. He always provided the quick solution and justified it. And so the cycle continued. And it wasn't until 2015, when I was literally hours from death, near death, that I finally began to wake up and understand that I had no control in my life, and my life was out of control because I wasn't managing it. As a 54-year-old at that moment, it was my younger self and ego making most of my choices in my life. And so that new awareness and awakening provided me with a new path to learn how to take care of myself, all of my needs, and to start to shred and put to the side the ones that no longer served me, that had caused my life to spiral down out of control on all levels, mentally, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And so that was my truth. And, it's interesting. I did a live this morning. I climbed a summit in Sedona this morning. And I shared in my live that even with the tenacity and the commitment at which I have embraced new healthy habits over the past 5 years, when an injury pops in or a medical condition becomes prevalent again in your life, I pulled away from being out in nature. I pulled away from doing what my body needs and requires today from me, because I was nursing this injury. And I was amazed at how quickly I went back to some old behaviors and thought patterns, only because I was not longer hiking every day. I was no longer pushing my body physically. I was no longer connecting. I was no longer grounding. And so even those of us that are mentors and coaches and teachers of a healthier lifestyle to live in, it doesn't mean that we aren't vulnerable, and we still also can be taken out of healthy habits and rituals. Eva, I love what you said. You used the word practice.
Mm-hmm.
And practice is something that I embraced. New ways of showing up for myself is through practice and commitment. But ultimately, I don't refer to habits in my life today at all. I don't really live in them. What I do live in and what I do embrace is a word for me that works really well. It's called non-negotiables. And for me, my non-negotiables are just a list that I put together. And Ev, I'm going to invite you to share from your interpretation, what are non-negotiables and what does it mean to you in your own health and wellness?
Beautiful, brother. And as always, Jay Ruff, man, always honoring my man standing up on that Real Men Real Talk live. And thank you for sharing that with us. Look, how I've always connected with what my brother says, the non-negotiables. These are really things that keep us on track. They keep us on that journey. They keep us on that track, not to fall into those old patterns, behaviors that may be the echoes or residue of some of the unconscious programs that, like I've said in previous shows, your body still does not believe you. Your body is the subconscious mind by the time you get to our age.
Okay.
So what we've got to really understand is that unless we've got these things, like my brother says, called non-negotiables, or rituals or habits we're talking about tonight in place, replaced of some of those bad ones, then the body is going to go back to default programming. It's going to go back to those old patterns or old behaviors. So for us to have some of these non-negotiables in place allows us to keep on that track. And for me, I'm like you, Jay. I'm a man of the land, as you know, and that's one of my non-negotiables each day. One of those other negotiables for me is to make sure that I have some quiet time. Now, you might think that's funny. We're going to talk about this, I'm sure, the power of silence. But I remember quiet time as a kid. And it's just one of those beautiful things, particularly in today's society, the speed, the grind, the rush. To have that quiet time for me is so important, as well as stepping out in nature like yourself, Jay, and some other non-negotiables, which we'll talk about.
Absolutely. Jamie Rodriguez says, the greatness of this topic is that we must always be vigilant. It comes back when we least expect it, the opponent. And our greatest, I love that comment, because our greatest opponent, I believe the only enemy we have is the enemy within.
Yep.
It's our own self-sabotage. It's our own self-deprecating thoughts and words that we speak that we don't realize are so damn powerful, that impact us consciously and unconsciously. I just absolutely love that. And I got to tell you guys, getting out there in nature for me, I used to say I hated getting to the gym, but I never left the gym regretting it. I always left the gym feeling better, 99% of the time. Now, eventually what I found was that the gym didn't work for me, because the gym was just filled with people like you, Ev, and I, that was showing up with under stress and other emotions that aren't always so healthy. And so for me, I found personally, my antidote, my medicine is getting out on a walk or getting out in nature. You call it a walkabout in nature. But for me, that is where the magic unfolds. Not only do I get the movement in, which is my replacement word for exercise, because exercise, for me, I didn't have a healthy relationship with it. But movement, I get that. And the second thing is that when I'm in movement and I'm doing some grounding, sometimes I take my shoes off, I put my feet, I dig it down into the red rocks here. I have my music on, and I go into prayer, and before I know it, I am buzzing. It's very rare that I leave and I am, let's say, not connected with myself and spirit or the universe. But I will say this is that I haven't found another antidote or gateway to finding that balance just for today, other than by getting out of my head and getting out of my house and getting out from the four walls of fluorescent lighting, and just allow the natural lighting provide me what I need in the moment.
Beautiful.
That's how it's worked for me. It's been and no doctor gave me that prescription. I didn't ask a doctor for that. I actually, the universe led me there. I remember the first time in 2016, early on, when I saw my doctor after surgeries, and I was actually fearful going in there because I knew she was going to ask me that question of, what are you doing for exercise? and I was fearful to tell her, well, I'm just walking at the beach every day. I didn't go to the gym. And so I was like emotionally prepared to get scolded. Felt like that younger self going into the doctor knowing this expert's going to put me down. And it was beautiful because she actually was a naturopathic. She wasn't even a PCP, thankfully, for me. And, she said, what you're doing is perfect. Beautiful. And then she said, "Are you actually taking your shoes off? Are you doing any touching of the ground, grounding, earthing?" Some refer to it as. And I said, "Yeah, but probably not enough." And she said, "Well, just keep doing it." And so began my healing journey. And what I want to do is I want to take us to another segment here right now. Is we talk about habits, and we really focused on our own well-being. But what about our relationships outside of ourselves? How do our habits impact our relationships if we're in a cohabiting relationship or dating someone? The good and the bad and the ugly. How do we find our habits impact our relationships? Who wants to jump in on this one?
I was waiting for the silence. I was waiting
Don't
for
everybody
the
start at once.
You know, I think the impact comes from how it impacts us. It once again, it goes right back to the relationship we're having with ourselves. And if we could begin to raise our awareness and consciousness to behaviors that don't serve us, that are rituals that don't serve us, routines that don't serve us, how would it serve anyone that we're having a relationship with, is my question. So that's the question I throw out is, if every relationship that we're having is simply a reflection of the relationship we're having with ourselves, and I'm continually perpetuating old behaviors, old patterns, old rituals, old routines that isn't serving me, how am I going to be able to move into a relationship with someone at a higher vibration if I'm stuck in my comfort zones that are taking me down, that are not serving me? So it really comes back to that relationship that we're having with ourselves first. So then we could move and shift those routines and relationships and behaviors to begin to serve ourselves, release that old wounding, that old low vibrational energy that will raise us up, and then we can make more conscious and aware choices in our relationships with others.
Beautiful. Beautiful. What do you make of that, Josh? What are you hearing?
Wow, what came to me, I don't know where this came from. And what came to me, Jeff, when I was thinking of some unsupportive or some habits that I may be in right now that aren't of my highest self, that the thought just came to me, what am I not forgiving myself for? And I don't know where that came from, but that's what you brought up in me, brother, and thank you, because I will gladly be examining that after the show, and as we move on. And that's the beauty of this show, is that it ebbs and flows. I mean, I feel like we take away as many nuggets as we're giving as well. You know, it's a beautiful thing. So thank you, Jeff, for that, because I will be examining what I haven't forgiven myself for, and where some unsupportive habits may still be getting their fuel.
Yeah. When we do that, it could be affecting relationships. And we don't even realize that these behaviors are affecting other relationships. And here's the thing. It's not about anything incredibly dramatic. It's not about these behaviors that are so dramatic. They could be so simple and so subtle that we don't even realize we're doing it. It could be something where when someone else is speaking, are you listening or are you waiting to speak? And do you jump in and not let a person finish speaking? and you're not even realizing that. Thus, that might affect your relationship with that other person. It doesn't. It's. I don't think we're really talking about anything that's dramatic here, unless it's alcoholism or it's something like that. There could be very subtle things that it's not a big change, but it's a shift.
Love that. Love that, Jeff.
Mhm.
Hey, Ev, I want to ask you, I'm going to invite you to kind of interpret, share your perspective of the vulnerability that Josh just shared with us. But before you go there, Josh, I just want to take a moment to honor you. Man, it's amazing. You just, I appreciate you so much. Be able to be a man today and be real in this show and to acknowledge and make that amazing statement. Yeah, take that breath. Take a nice deep breath, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to invite you to feel into that right now. That's a powerful statement. And I wonder, I'm gonna turn this over to Ev, but I do wonder how much of that, what's behind that even deeper is, am I not worthy of more? Am I not worthy of having more than I have? And is that a subconscious or an unconscious shadow that keeps you from pushing forward and breaking through some of these old habits that you may resort back to when you are under stress, when you are lacking sleep, when you are right where you're at? But just something more for you to ponder or pause on. But Ev, what do you make of all this? What the heck is going on tonight?
Jay, man, Jay, you just answered it all, bro.
Right.
You just answered it all, brother. But for me, just to piggyback on that, and yeah, thank you, brother. I honor that, Josh, so much, man. All my brothers always turning up, but it's coming back to these emotions again. Like we find ourselves talking about a lot of these habits, and like I said, when we understand the science of what these thoughts creating these emotions, repeating on these thoughts, vice versa, going back. One thing for me, particularly in a previous relationship, is that I guess I could look at it as a bad habit, that in the relationship, there was a type of emotional benefit or, bad habit that was coming out of it, because in the relationship, at the time that I was in it, I knew that it was bad for me. I knew that it was toxic, but it took me good 1-2 years to really come to the conclusion and really say that I'm enough without this person, to come back home to self, to say that I am enough. So you might be in that relationship like I was. Now, the bad habit is that I stayed in it because I had a type of emotional benefit coming from it still. So it still made me feel good.
Wow. Ev, let's just take a moment here just to let that one drop down. Would you mind repeating that last statement?
Would I repeating that last statement?
The last part, the last thing you said.
Do you remember what you said?
I might not even remember what I said, Jay.
If I may paraphrase you, you said, I may have stayed in it longer than I should have because I was still getting something out of it.
That's right, brother. And that's what I was saying, like within being in regards to a bad habit, because emotionally there was still benefits from the particular relationship.
Okay, got me. Now I'm intrigued. Because what you just said, I'm like, okay, so I know that it was toxic and I know it wasn't healthy for me, but I was getting something out of it that was good.
It's called secondary gain.
What was that?
Well,
what
Have we talked about sex, love, and intimacy before, Jeff?
Okay.
So it's like I said, these emotional benefits. We are emotional beings. So, like I said, there was a beautiful dance that I started to become aware of that, you know, it created this bad habit that I knew that it was toxic.
Right.
But still on the other side, there was still some beautiful emotional benefits that I would get from this particular person.
Mhm.
And that kept me in the relationship.
Mm.
So emotionally, like I said, it's really learning these emotions and become more emotionally intelligent to some of these patterns, behaviors, and programs that we put ourselves in.
So you bring up something. Okay, so could we say then that in an instance where you're in an unhealthy relationship or doing unhealthy habits, that the secondary gain that you were getting out of it is feeling a need? It's filling a hole, filling something that we're not fulfilling in ourselves.
And now we're going deep, brother, because that's the emotional.
That's why I asked you that question. It's like that's just why I asked the question, because
and that's why I was saying until I got to that self-awareness that I was enough to be alone or single or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. It's staying in. I mean, I was there. I remember. Back in the early '90s, I had a girlfriend, and I knew it wasn't working, and I knew that I really wasn't enjoying it anymore. But I stayed in it because I didn't want to be alone. And it was familiar to me and until it wasn't anymore. Until I realized that this is not, we don't want the same things. There was so many, okay, so going back to what Ev just said, there were so many amazing and wonderful things in this relationship that I had. We gelled, and it was amazing. And we had a lot of fun, and we laughed a lot, and it was amazing. But in the bigger picture of it, because that's what I got by staying in it. Oh, this is fun. But in the bigger picture of it, we weren't going to be able to grow together and go to the next level after that, because we just wanted different things and we looked at life differently. But I know I stayed in it because, man, I love going out dancing with her. This is really fun. So it was filling up all of this stuff. But here's the thing. I was aware and conscious enough that I go, when this ends, I'm going to have to go through the grieving process. I'm going to have to go through what you go through after letting something go after 2 or 3 years, and then being in that place. And the reason why I stayed in it, because I wanted to avoid all of those feelings.
There you go.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, I love you, man.
Thank you, Jay.
I do. I love you, man. No, seriously, I do. Yeah. Again, dropping a bomb tonight. You admitted that you stayed in it because you were scared of being lonely. How many of us are lonely even in it? Because if our needs aren't being met in a relationship, we're going to have those same feelings of loneliness. It's crazy how that works. I do want to say, it's about 7 minutes coming up on the hour, the women here on Real Men, Real Talk Live tonight, a lot of them are actually dropping some truth bombs about the sex component, how sex kept them in relationships longer than they should have. As we approach the hour, before we get into musical chair as part of our program tonight, I'm interested from your guys' perspective, since the women have pulled us into this part about the sex component. What's your spin on that, Ev? What do you think?
Come on, man. We've done sex, love, and intimacy before, ladies out there. Come on, sisters. Don't try and pull us back into this. Well, that's the difference, isn't it? Like the brother Eddie Murphy said, I had sex with her, but I made love to you, baby. It's a difference, isn't it? There's a big difference. So we did coming from a different, we don't have to get into the science, but we're coming from a different part of the brain. Are we in the cerebrum or in the cerebellum, the lower part of the brain, just looking to release some of those fluids?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Going back to that relationship I was talking about, and this was interesting. When I knew it was over, it was over, and we didn't ultimately want the same things. But I just remember that on a Saturday night, about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, my buzzer in my apartment. If you're familiar with New York City apartments, the buzzers downstairs would buzz, and I heard it, and it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, what the heck is going on here? And I went over, and it was that woman. We ended the relationship, and she wanted a booty call.
Did you do it?
No.
No.
Whoa.
Wow. Go, Jeff.
No, I did not. I
Why?
did not do it because I would have been back into the proverbial soup.
Well, that's some awareness there, brother.
I would be back into that soup, and that's exactly what I said to her on my intercom. Everybody's watching there. You saw Jerry. I was there. I said, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Oh, I just wanted to come up." I said, "How much have you had to drink?" And I know what's going on here. And I said to her, "If we do this, we're back in it." And we both know that ultimately it's not in the big picture going to work. And don't think that I didn't lie awake 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, I just did.
Hey guys, I appreciate that, Jeff. I want to just take a moment here to just drop Jeannie Cash's comment. She asked a question. I think it's maybe a rhetorical question. I'm not quite sure yet. But she says, why does it always have to be sex? That's the easy part. I love it. But what do we do after that? And Stephanie goes on to talk about, she says something to the effect like, there's just something about that connection that makes you feel okay. Stephanie, I know any one of us can jump in and from our perspective share that has to do with the hormones that are released during having sex. And so, yeah, it does feel good. However, is that fulfilling? Is that, can that sustain a relationship as opposed to going much more deeper into the overall perspective of healthy intimacy?
Another show, Jay.
I know, right?
Well, doesn't it come down to, doesn't it really come down to in relationships, combining sex and love and having them intertwine? Because you want to go back, you want to talk about behaviors and addictions. Sex is great, but there's nothing else there. But I stay in it because I'm thinking that I'm connecting when I'm having sex. But you're only connecting from your lower will or your first chakra. You're not really connecting in your heart space. If true intimacy is what we want, that connects in the heart space, and then you connect from the first chakra to the heart chakra and everything in between. And that is the fulfillment part of a relationship.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing that. We are just about at the hour. So it is that time. And it's interesting how so many of our shows kind of bring us back to sex and intimacy and relationships. Let's remind ourselves tonight's topic is in fact on habits, routines, and rituals. And So with what time we do have left, this is the time of the show where we do have some fun. I'm going to invite each one of you to have 3 minutes tonight. 3 minutes. 3 minutes tonight to share either a key principle, drop a truth bomb, and or a tool as it relates to healthy habits, how to break free of destructive habits, rituals, and patterns that have impacted our life or we're still in it with it. And so musical chairs, you guys know the way that works. We invite, once you are seated next to me, it's your time to light us up. Before we do go there, again, I want to thank our viewers and listeners for connecting with us tonight and being part of. I do want to acknowledge there's been so many amazing comments. Jillian just says, then you can become addicted to sex, constantly seeking the fulfillment. She's still on the sex part. That's okay, Jillian. We love you. It's probably 3 a.m. there in the UK, right? And you are absolutely, I love you. You're vulnerable. You're showing up. And yeah, so Chad says, I guess the show's habit is to go to relationships. Oh, I like that, Chad. Because, I mean, ultimately, we are relational. I mean, I don't know that we can survive without on an island all by ourselves. I don't know how long we can do that and be okay.
Mm-hmm.
We do need each other. Marilyn Doyle Korn coming in from the Scottsdale, Arizona area. Great show once again. Thank you for joining us. And I do want to acknowledge something that before we go there, Keith Ottersberg. I want to thank you, Keith, for showing up tonight and being a real man on Real Men, Real Talk Live. He says at 51, and being alone for 3 years, I'm realizing it was intimacy I was missing, not necessarily sex.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, what a beautiful awareness and comment. Thank you for sharing that with us tonight, Keith.
Magic.
And so in this moment, Jeff, I'm putting you up. You're in a hot seat. Musical chairs, you've got 3 minutes to drop a bomb, share a tool, or just an overview or closing thoughts from tonight.
Well, I'm going to ask everybody out there and put everybody else in the hot seat now that I'm in it. Can you look at your life and can you look at your behaviors, your routines, your patterns, your rituals, and ask yourself, as I perpetuate them, as I perpetrate them, how does it make me feel? Does it raise my resonance? Does it lower my resonance? Is it serving me? Or am I doing them, perpetrating them, because I'm comfortable, I know them, I know how it feels, and my nervous system is in sync with it, even though that the first thing I do every morning is brew that pot of coffee. Even though I know, for me, that that's not healthy for me, I do it anyway. So I'm looking at something that's very simple and saying, I'm doing it anyway, even though I know for me that that is not healthy. But I do it because it's more or less a hit to my nervous system. Because what we do by perpetuating routines, behaviors, and habits and patterns, somewhere underneath all of that, our wounded child thinks it's in control of everything. We perpetuate these old habits, routines, behaviors, even though they might not be fulfilling to us, serving us, raising our resonance and vibration. Somewhere deep down inside of us, we think we're in control of it all. And if in fact, we just one morning don't make the coffee, have warm water with lemon, that's unknown to us. That's going to shift me somewhere that I have no clue where I'm going. So to really keep it simple, look at your life and see what the scoop is.
Beautiful.
Love that, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Ev.
Oh, it's me, is it? So,
Time to wake up.
beautiful. Brothers in the house, as always, brothers and sisters across the other side of the pond. I'm on 11:11 here. The gateway is open. Jeff,
Love
yeah,
Not
man.
the
Jeff,
power.
that's it, brother. Jeff was in the green room earlier, and he said how lit he was today, coming off his gifts with his photography. And, that beautiful light that is on this planet now, it is just amazing. Some of the things that, particularly this year, 2020, has really brought to the surface. And we don't have to worry about the theatrics out there. But, one of those things we've talked about, these habits tonight. And to me, these habits, they form the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves. Let me say that again. These habits form the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves. So what is the story you've been telling yourself to this point, to this space-time continuum right here, right now? As we come into the year 2021, and I keep asking you, brothers and sisters, are you going to be the one? Are you going to be the one? It's trying to check in with your story that you've been writing about yourself. Do you want to play this supporting role? Do you want to just be the extra in your own story? Or do you want to actually start being the actor, practicing some of these healthier rituals, non-negotiables that my man Jay the Rothman talks about, habits like we've talked about tonight? Do you want to start putting some of these into your circle of life and really playing out the person that you want to see down here on planet Earth? Because if you can't change some of these habits that have been unconscious to you to this point in time, you're unable to reframe some of these things in your life that aren't making you the hero of your own story, then you're going to keep living the old program, the old way, a program outside of you that may not be serving you. So like my brother Jeff just said, ask yourself, what's been serving to me to this point? What hasn't? Find out cues that you may have to be calling on yourself before you get triggered into some of these old habits that haven't served you. We didn't talk about this tonight, but think about your habit at. Where is your habitat? Who are the people that you're hanging around with? Think about the environment that you're in, my brothers and sisters. Hang with like-minded people that are on the frequency that you want to be at. Visualize that hero, that actor, that person that you want to see at the end of the finish line. When we're able to do that, we're able to replace some of these old programs, patterns, habits, whatever you want to call them, within our lives with something that may serve us. Then, my brothers and sisters, we can start becoming the one. Because it's not about refixing. It's not about getting rid of the old you, because the old you was fine. It's about resetting, rejuvenating, refreshing, and remembering, so you become one. On that note, my brothers and sisters, I'm out.
Wow. No, you are not, Ev, I'm going to challenge you. You are not out. You are totally in.
In.
Oh, my friend, my. Hey, Josh, how do we?
No, that's what I was thinking as you were ending, Ev. I was like,
We're done. We just, I mean,
mic drop.
Wow. Ev, that's just freaking amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that tonight.
Peace, brother. Thank you.
You know what I love? I love was the habitat part. That's just.
Where the habitat? Where is it? Where are you at?
Yeah, I love that.
And
it's in the word, brother. It's in the word.
You called it. I mean, Ev, I chased change for the better part of my 20s and 30s. I went to success seminars. I bought packages. I went to 3 and 5 day intensives every other month. Like, I was ready to beat this material into my head to create the change I wanted in my life. And it isn't this massive thing that I thought it was. And I wrote in my book, I felt like when I finally climbed to the top of Machu Picchu on my bloody hands and knees after like 12 years of searching for the answer to change and how to change my life, I opened the chest and the golden rays came down, and inside was a pebble. And it's the same pebble that I had in my front yard all along. And that was my thoughts. Those thoughts, changing those thoughts, changing those thought habits, changing those thought patterns are the culmination of the smallest thing on the planet will be the change you're seeking. And so that's the only thing I can piggyback off of Ev's amazing closing to the show was that, and you know what? It's okay to be scared. New is scary. The brain doesn't like it. The brain is trying to keep you asleep at the wheel and keep you back in those old things that it knows, the H word, the old unsupportive habits. So it's okay to be new in life. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be uncomfortable. And it's okay to keep going. And it's okay to keep moving forward, even when you're scared. It's okay to keep moving forward when you're uncomfortable and you're in new things. And it's okay to fail. It's okay to not succeed at everything, because we learn and we take nuggets and we grow. And so fail your way up is the way that I see it. It's okay. And that is about all.
I love fail your way up, man. That is lit. Fail your way up. I love that, man.
Fall upwards.
Fall up.
Josh, thank you for sharing your words of wisdom this evening. One last moment to acknowledge our viewers and listeners. Thank you for joining us this evening and making Real Men Real Talk Live part of your habits, patterns, and rituals to join us at this moment on Tuesday evenings. We appreciate you so much. And I appreciate all of my co-hosts tonight.
So much.
In this moment, you guys showed up and you brought it home one more time. Of course, we're missing Charles Maddox. He is in, I believe, Cancun, scouting out some sites. We miss you this evening, Charles. Hope you stay safe and stay healthy. My closing thoughts are real simple. How many of our habits aren't truly ours? How many of our habits have we just inherited from our ancestors, from our moms, our dads, our grandparents, our siblings? And we live in them unknowingly because that was our norm. That's what we're accustomed to. And we repeat the same unhealthy, hurtful, toxic patterns and habits that don't serve our health, our wellness, our well-being, our relationships, but yet we stay in it. So I invite you as a viewer to really take this week to examine some of your top habits and really ask yourself, are these even mine? Do I own them? And do I want to continue to own them? Or am I willing, perhaps, to have the courage to cut the chain, cut the cord, and create a new reality for yourself, creating new habits, new non-negotiables that you can own for the first time in your life that can serve you and bring you some serenity, some inner peace, some joy, some contentment, some love for yourself. That's what I'd like to leave you with, is a Pay attention to how you're showing up for you. And make sure that you are aligned at your heart or soul space, not at your head space, with what you've always done. And understand that we don't have to tear down a wall all in one. We don't have to break the cord or the chain overnight. But we could start by taking simple steps, as Mary Kelly said. Baby steps, big progress, baby steps. And so with that, I want to thank you guys for showing up tonight. One more week, one more topic that we all are embracing one day at a time. And you guys have an awesome week. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. This is the hardest part of the show for me, is saying goodbye. You know, because it's like it's the one time of the week where we're connecting outside of production meeting, and it just feels so good to be with you all, including our viewers and listeners.
Yeah.
But it's always time. There's always the next time. And with that, I love you guys. We'll see you next time on Real Men, Real Talk Live.